All right. Hey, everyone. Celebrity fashion photographer, TV director, and executive producer, Kevin Michael Schmitz here. And I am on live going in depth about overcoming objections. Now, when I'm talking about overcoming rejection, overcoming objections, overcoming essentially the challenges that you're going to have when dealing as a photographer, booking projects, right? And we all deal with them every day. But overcoming rejection is probably the most important aspect that you guys need to master as a photographer. And what I mean by this is I want you guys to realize that rejection is a really, really valuable aspect of being a successful photographer. And if we're not being rejected, that means that we're not putting ourselves out there every day, that we're not getting ourselves in front of the right people, and we're not essentially marketing ourselves at a really high level and getting in touch with the right people that we need to be booking projects with. Can't hear me? All right, that's pretty important. Let's see here, guys. Let me know if anyone else has that issue. All right. All right, guys, can you hear me now? Excellent, excellent. Okay, cool. Just want to make sure all of you guys have access. All right, guys, you can all hear me? Okay, excellent, excellent. Okay. So overcoming rejection is one of my most important and favorite topics that I get to talk about. And it's something that I like to bring up because a lot of other photographers and workshop directors don't really bring this up. It's kind of that dirty little secret that nobody really likes to talk about because it's the big challenge that each and every one of us deals with every single day. And I really mean that. I mean, I don't care how prominent you are as a photographer. I don't care how, big of a deal you are if you're shooting for Vogue or Versace or, you're shooting six-figure ad campaigns. It doesn't matter where you're at, whether you're there or whether you're shooting $200 portrait sessions or real estate, or maybe you're doing stuff for free. No matter what, when you do become a professional photographer, you have to deal with rejection. It's just part of the game, right? And if any of you guys are dealing with that and any of you guys deal with rejection, I'm going to give you guys all kinds of secret tips on how to handle it, how to deal with it, and what to do going forward. Because I want to make sure that each and every one of you is getting to that point, at least getting to the point of rejection, which I think is really, really valuable, right? So when it comes to rejection, what I really mean by that is, okay, if you're talking and contacting, you want to shoot for, say, a campaign for free people, right? You've always wanted to shoot a campaign for free people. And that's something that, would be a dream of yours, is to shoot that type of campaign, right? And you are reaching out to the creative directors or the director of marketing at Free People, and you are being rejected. Like, they're like, you know what? I love you. You've got great work, but you know what? You're not right for us, or it's not the right time, or we've already booked our photographer for the project. That all comes into play. But really what they're saying is, you're not really right for us right now. And that's important for us to also understand. If you're a consumer photographer and you are contacting clients and you're, talking about, maybe booking a wedding with them or shooting a high-end portrait shoot with some client, and the client says no, well, that's also another type of rejection. Maybe they might say no to how much you're charging. Maybe they might say no to you as the photographer and they have somebody else that they selected. Whatever that might be, I think it's important that you guys start to see it as a normal and important facet of being a professional. Okay. Now, when I started out, and I'll give you guys some stories with myself, because of course, I've been doing this my entire career, and I've been a full-time commercial photographer my entire life. In fact, I started out actually when I was 18 doing a little bit of consumer photography, shooting for, individual clients. And then I got into fine art photography. And then I got in actually to shooting commercial photography, shooting for big ad campaigns and shooting for, major fashion campaigns for Burberry, for Giorgio Armani. But along the way, I have dealt with so much rejection, you guys, like unbelievable amount of rejection. And if you guys have ever dealt with rejection, I want you guys to mention it. I want you guys to say something on this chat about the rejection that you might be dealing with. Okay. So if you are, dealing with any sort of rejection, please mention it in the chat. I'd love to know, when you dealt with this, what type of rejection is it? Is it when you're making phone calls? Is it you're emailing people? Is it shooting for commercial campaigns? Is it fashion? Is it consumer? Is it fine art? What type of photography and what type of rejections are you generally dealing with? Right? I'd love to know. I'd love to hear it because I want to help you guys, each and every one of you, with essentially the type of rejection that you're dealing with. And I know that we all deal with this on some regard, but if you were to say contact free people, right? Just, images like you're seeing right now, incredible content, beautiful content, but content where, we might not get that job right away. We might get rejected. It happens all the time. And if it doesn't happen to you, then it means that we're probably not getting ourselves out there like we want to be. Stephen Paul says, this week I heard from Tommy Bahama and they like my work, but are happy with the photographers they're currently working with. Okay, excellent, Stephen. And Stephen is a photographer I've had the luxury of spending time with and working with, and I completely understand. But you have great work, Stephen. You've got some beautiful photography, and you are, I would say, worthy of shooting for Tommy Bahama, for instance. It's just a matter of maybe, they are currently, getting thousands of photographers trying to work with them. And right now, you're not the photographer that they are completely excited about because they want to keep working with their photographer. And that's okay. That's okay. He's getting rejected, but at least they like your work. At least you're in top of mind. Now, what's important about this, Stephen, and by the way, Stephen, why don't you put your website in the chat here so that everybody can see, so they know who we're talking about here. But when we're dealing with rejection like that, I'm so proud of Stephen for actually reaching out and being rejected, because the fact that actually Tommy Bahama creative department responded to him and said, we're not ready for you. We already have somebody. We're not interested at this time. That's fantastic. That's amazing. I'm so, so proud of you, Stephen, because you were being considered. And that's what matters. You were being considered. You were one of those people where they actually looked at your work and you had a chance. You had some sort of a chance. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's all we're asking for, right? Now, of course, we can take it a step further and, and do some strategies to follow up with these people. And by the way, to give you guys an idea of the great Stephen Paul's work, Stephen, this is his beautiful photography. I mean, it's absolutely stunning. He's an amazing photographer. He shot all this incredible content on location with me at the Miami Beach workshop, and it was absolutely stunning and out of this world. I'm extremely impressed with everything that he's done. It's absolutely breathtaking. And you know what? To me, I mean, if I were Tommy Bahama, I would say, yeah, man, your brand is where it's at. I really like it. I think that as far as the brand quality, as far as getting content that's similar, because that's also important, making sure that your content is in the same realm of what Tommy Bahama is doing. And it is, I would say that you definitely are on brand there, which I think is important. And it's a big part of it, is being on brand with Tommy Bahama. But maybe they're just not ready. Maybe they don't know you yet. Maybe you haven't built the trust yet. And my question to you, Stephen, and in fact, I'd love it if you even wanted to come on and talk about this. But Stephen, I'd be curious to know from you, have you met them in person? Or was this just through phone calls and emails and stuff like that? I'd love to know, because, that's fantastic, Stephen. But I would love to know, tell me, what was the interaction? Because they're not going to just hire you by shooting emails and talking to you on the phone. they're going to want to meet you. They're going to want to have meetings with you. They're going to want to, at least on Zoom, if not in person, ideally in person, and building that relationship. Whether they're going to book you now or not, it doesn't matter. Happens all the time. Whenever I am considered for a project, I always like to meet with that client. I always like to meet with them, regardless of whether they're ready to work with me or not, regardless of whether the timing is right or not. That's okay, because we always want to be that guy or girl that is going to be hired at some point in the future. But the most important thing, Stephen, is that you were rejected. I love it. I love it, because it means that you got great work. And as you guys can all attest, I mean, Steven's a wonderful and world-class photographer. He shot this epic content, in Miami Beach with me, for instance. But he didn't get booked on that project. But you know what? Steven was considered. They were thinking about him. They were interested in him. They were like, wow, okay, I like your work, but Steven, hey, and there he is. We're not ready. We're happy with our current photographer. So Steven, did you meet with him in person, or was it just through a phone call and email?
It was through a little bit of Instagram. And so I'd been emailing Beth Ann Anderson for a season and not getting any responses. And then I started following her on Instagram and commenting on her stuff, liking it. And at the beginning of the year, when she decided to look at her spam stuff, she saw my name and recognized it from Instagram.
Got it. And when you say spam stuff, was this emails that were in her spam folder?
Yeah, emails that Tommy Mama was filtering out. And so she called it purgatory.
Yeah.
And then saved it, and the email was something to the effect of, hey, your work's really great. We've got a great group of people here, but let's keep the lines of communication open, and let's stay in touch. Okay. And that was the response from her.
Got it. Well, that's a great response. You know what, though, Stephen, you mentioned something really important. You were stuck in purgatory. And that's what happens all the time to photographers. And I can tell you what, guys, this is why rejection is so valuable. It's because if we're not rejected, Stephen, couldn't you attest that if you're not rejected, that means that they don't even know that you're contacting them?
Yeah, for sure. I've, ever since I started doing MailChimp and stuff, I'm getting a better idea of who's seeing stuff and who's not. And I at least knew that they weren't opening it, but I didn't know why. Totally. So now you've got this issue where, okay, maybe your emails are in spam. Was that your personal direct email, or was that your email broadcast? That was my email broadcast and my individual. I did it. I figured after a while of seeing that it's not opening, well, let's just try it straight from my email.
Got it. Okay. Well, yeah. So, and your email still went to spam.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's something that you guys do want to work on. I mean, your personal email. In what's your personal email, Stephen? Is it just like at your Stephen Paul Photography Lifestyle.com?
Yeah, Stephen at Stephen Paul StephenPaulStudio.com. So
I would do just a suggestion for you, Stephen. I would do some cleanup of your email account, because that should not be landing in spam. Make sure that there's some, issues with like DKIM. There's like different, like keys and stuff like that you can get, essentially set up, through, I don't know if you have hosted through GoDaddy or whatnot, but whatever, or
at GoDaddy. Yeah.
Through GoDaddy. Okay. And that's your email, where you're hosting your email.
Yeah.
Okay, so a little secret about that, guys. I have used GoDaddy email for many, many years, and I strongly am against it. GoDaddy is fine for domains, but when it comes to email hosting, it's the worst system out there, and your emails will go into spam the more times than not. So I would get away from GoDaddy immediately. Okay, so that's killing your deals right now. Nobody's seeing your work. Okay, Google, professional Google accounts are fantastic. My Kevin at Photo Workshop Series account, for instance, Kevin at FrenchDreamCastle.com, they almost never go into spam mail. They're very, very high delivery rate. And that way I don't have to worry about having to tell somebody to go look in spam. but it's different than GoDaddy because that goes through Microsoft, and it's the worst system out there for email. So
And
if you
they
guys are hosting your email through GoDaddy, switch it today.
It was awful this last week. I couldn't believe it. I just got back from Uganda on a trip.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
An 11-day photography trip for working for a nonprofit.
Wow.
And the day I started coming home, I realized my email wasn't working. I'm like, I didn't do anything different. And they had ported over. I still don't understand what they ported over, but it changed things, and it took me a few days to figure it out and get it fixed.
Okay. Well, congratulations on that epic photographic project in Uganda. And how amazing, Stephen. You're an inspiration to all of us. So Stephen, tell me then, when you got rejected, what's your next step then with this client, with Tommy Bahama?
Tommy Bahama, right now I'm just following their current project in the Bahamas. And, liking and commenting if appropriate.
Okay.
And I was looking to wait a month or so and send some more stuff back.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't wait, because that's not going to help you. But
Okay.
but look at their work, right? I mean, you obviously can do better than this, but that's their look right now. And then Stephen, you look at your work. In my opinion, is significantly stronger. There's more life to it. There's more energy to it. It's more beautiful. The talent, the models are more beautiful. The styling's even better. I think your work is much stronger. But you got to remember, Stephen, and all of you guys out there, that there's other reasons for why people hire the photographers they're working with, even if the photographers aren't that good. And in my opinion, I don't think whoever. Do you know who it is? Who's shooting?
It is. It's Ben Watt. When he's not doing Tommy Bahama, he's shooting Sports Illustrated.
Right. Okay. So Ben Watt, who's a famous photographer, and he's very, very well known, but honestly, the work is very mediocre in my opinion of what's happening on, if you go to their website. Now, another question for you. I doubt Ben Watt is doing like their everything. Is he doing all of it, or is he just doing their, like, did he shoot all of this?
Let's see. He wouldn't have done the studio type look, but all locations. Well, maybe not all the location, but primarily location. So the lifestyle outdoor stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's okay. It's definitely doesn't wow and dazzle me. Just looks like any very average type of photography. But he landed this because of his name. And it's about who you know and about what your name is. So we need to build up your name, Stephen. And also, though, the upside of this is that it means that, since Ben Watt is a really notable photographer, he's probably charging them an arm and a leg. He probably has a pretty sizable budget. So that's a good thing. That means that, they're spending money. That means that, if you land it, they're probably going to have a sizable budget. There are other opportunities, too, though. You could also find out about shooting their e-com, shooting their other opportunities, because I doubt Ben Watt does everything for them. He probably just shoots one campaign each season for them, but probably isn't doing all of the stuff that's on their website. So I'd find out about that, and that's a great way.
I've been following. He's traveling with them a fair amount.
Okay. Well, you need to eventually take this account from him, because he's getting old. The guy's in his 60s, Ben Watt, and he's not going to be doing this forever. But I'm really glad you set this up. I would also suggest, if you get a chance to meet them in person, meet this, is it their director of marketing?
Yeah.
And that's who I'd be meeting with if you can, because did you get these responses on the phone or just through social media and email?
Just email.
Okay. Yeah. So they don't really know you yet. That's So that's another big challenge that Steven's running into, is that it's just an email. I mean, there's nothing personal about that whatsoever. They don't know who Steven is. They don't know his glowing personality. They don't know what it's like to work with him. And so what I would strongly suggest is at least Zoom call with them. And if you can't Zoom call, then, if you can't meet them in person, then at least Zoom call with them. And if you can't do either of those, then at least speak to them on the phone and touch base. But that's very, very, very important. It's very valuable.
I've left voicemails. I did try driving by Tommy Bahama's headquarters in Seattle.
Okay.
but
Excellent.
she ended up being in Hawaii.
Okay. Well, when they come back, maybe coordinate something so you can go in and meet with them. But yeah, so that's excellent. And you know what, Stephen, I'm really happy you got yourself out there, but I need you to take it up a notch, because we can't just, email people and, get a rejection like that. That's not a true rejection. We need to be meeting with them. They need to know who you are. You need to like come into their office, bring some wine and cheese, build a relationship, showcase your portfolio, and get them to really know who you are. Because I think that's vital. That's vital. Now, when it comes to your content, what's the reception been like for all this incredible work that you have?
Boy, people are loving it. I used to get a ton of people going, "Hey, I've got a friend with a really nice camera," and blah blah blah, and now people are going, "Oh my gosh, wow." they don't have words to say other than they're going, "Man, you know what you're doing." So it's great. It's been a total life change in how people are viewing me.
So what you're saying is the brand that you created, where you shot on location on Miami Beach with me at the Miami Beach workshop, has completely revolutionized how people see you?
Completely. I mean, besides the lifestyle photography, the help that you gave me with my architecture work, just when people pull up my websites, they're just gasping now, as opposed to before it was like, oh, that's pretty nice.
I love it.
It's a huge difference, and with the help of just learning how to go, this is important and that's not. I didn't quite have that, and I really needed it.
Absolutely. So you created the brand. You created this powerful brand, and now you have something that can, really stand up and showcase to major brands like Tommy Bahama, and they're actually interested, which is huge. So you're basically catapulted yourself to another echelon. And by the way, Stephen Paul, your work was amazing before. I mean, when I started working with you, you already had some good work, but the work that we created together in Miami Beach at the Miami Beach workshop was next level. It was really
absolutely next level. In a number of ways. I mean, obviously the models were fantastic, locations, but for me to understand this type of expression is useful, this one's not. It's kind of nitpicky, but it's nitpicky that I needed, because I wasn't getting it.
Well, yeah, and I think that this is one of the things that I love is there's a freshness to this photography of yours. There's a beautiful styling, beautiful feeling, but it also, to me, it doesn't look unattainable. I guess what I'm saying is, like, oftentimes when you look at fashion or even lifestyle work, it just looks like, oh my gosh, the models are, way up here and we're down here kind of thing. But what I love about this work is that it looks relatable, Stephen. I connect with it. The people they're young, they're fun. They just look like nice people. I'm engaged. You have happy, healthy people having fun, enjoying life. And I'm inside of the scene with the talent. And that's how I feel. It really has a great feeling to it. And it sounds like clients are responding. Now, the next thing I want you to do.
Just this week at a networking session where I pulled up my portfolio and she's like, I'm sold.
Wow. Wow.
It was
who
great.
Was that?
She was just a local business owner. I'll never work for her, but yeah. She totally got that relationship that you were describing and was all in. She's like, I don't have work for you, but my gosh, I want to be that.
I love it. That's fantastic. Well, Stephen, I'm super proud of you, and I can't wait to see what you come up with. I know you're coming to some productions this year, and I can't wait to work with you, because we're going to create some just unbelievable, ridiculous content that's going to take it to another level and add to the Miami Beach workshop. Yeah, it's
going to be epic.
And
it's next
month. It is
going
to be epic, Stephen. And what are you looking forward to the most?
I'm looking forward to expanding with a different group of models, different age ranges to expand just the connectivity to different brands. So yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm going to hit all 5 days there in Newport.
Excellent. Yeah, I can't wait. And what's really smart about what Stephen's doing, you guys, is that he's building his body of work so that he can go out there and get rejected more, because that's what this is about, right? But what's cool about this is that he's raising his profile, he's raising his echelon, and the content that he created in Miami now he's adding this epic content in Newport to essentially double the size of his portfolio because the content's so epic. But when he comes to Newport Beach and creating content that's just like totally over the top, and adding, this is all content shot at Newport Beach over the last couple of years, and creating these moments that line up really well and smoothly with the body of work you've already created, but massively increasing it and having that California look, that very like California. You notice the light is different. It kind of has a different feeling to it, a different energy to it. The whole Cali look is very different than the Miami Beach look. And I think that's really advantageous to you as well, to get some of that California vibe in the content with you. I think that's really important.
The way you talk about lights, spot on. Being in Uganda there for 11 days, looking at the difference of light there to Miami, to I live in the Northwest, it's massively different. And I'm looking forward to that change.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, I love it. And I think that's one of the reasons we design these workshops to be like essentially they're adapted to different, we have them all over the world, from LA to Newport Beach to we do Las Vegas, Chicago, Miami, New York, at one at my French castle, at my 49-room 13th century palace in France. So we do them all over the place. But we also kind of combine some together. Like, for instance, combine, like, the reason that Stevens came to Miami, now he's coming to Newport, is because Miami and Newport like match. They match together. They are like, they align together with like look, feel, and vibe, so that the Newport and the Miami stuff can work together in the same body of work, the same portfolio. And then the same thing goes with, in October, we have our Elite Masterclass in Los Angeles. Actually, this image right here was shot at our Elite Masterclass on lifestyle photography in Los Angeles in October. And this one is adding on to that, at another level as well. So an even greater scale.
I love it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, fantastic. So thank you so much, Stephen. I appreciate you joining and showing off your work and your thoughts on the rejection. But I encourage you, go out there and meet these people, whatever it takes, and try to be setting up, I would have a day to make phone calls, whether it's 1 or 2 days a week, 100 phone calls a day, at least every single week. And then try to get as many rejections as you possibly can so that people know who you are. You find out what you can do to improve. And now that you've got this great content, now you're being considered, which is amazing, which is absolutely amazing.
I think a year ago, there's no way they would have looked at me. So yeah,
exactly. They wouldn't have looked at you. And now you're in their periphery. Now they're looking at you, and they're loving your work, and they're shooting right now with like a top tier photographer, Ben Watt, who shoots for Sports Illustrated. And they're also looking at you and being like, oh my God, your work is actually really great. We're just currently booked.
Yeah, I can't tell you how thrilled I am about that. Just for them to even look was like, yes, finally. That's baby.
That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for, Stephen. I mean, that's what the Photography Workshop Series was designed for 15 years ago, was specifically for this, so that we can catapult you and get you considered by the most prevalent people in the industry. So I'm super proud of you. Excellent work. Well, thank you so much, Stephen, for joining me. I appreciate it. And I want to get to back into rejection. And Stephen gave some fantastic insight onto his experience with rejection. But this is a common situation, and I noticed Stephen's doing it, and many of you do it too. It's like you're sending emails, sending email broadcasts, sending personal emails. Some of them might be going to their junk mail, but either way, you get a negative response. But that's okay. That's fantastic. That's fine. You got a negative response. No worries. But actually, it was a pretty positive response because they were interested. They just weren't ready for him yet, right? But he's planting the seeds, which is really, really, really important. But what I do want you guys to do is also follow up with phone calls, also follow up with Zoom meetings if you can do it, also follow up with in-person meetings, and get rejected. Get rejected all of the time. It is the best thing for you. And I'll give you guys some examples. I mean, when I started out as a photographer, I didn't really know, about how to do all this stuff. And I didn't really know, other than, what, I came out after, to become a commercial photographer. I started my portrait and fine art business when I was 18. But when I started more as a commercial photographer, that was basically when I was like 23, 24. And I went to school for photography, did my bachelor's, then I pursued my master's of fine arts to be a professor of photography, moved down to LA. And I was just like, all right, hit the ground running. Guess what? It's 2008. The entire economy collapsed. All the commercial photographers were going under. They were all literally like going out of business, going bankrupt, getting crushed. And, it was a devastating time for the photographic industry. And it wasn't like the COVID situation where the government was bailing us all out and giving us money. It was a situation where just everybody was screwed. And the first thing that companies do is they cut advertising spends. And then the first thing advertising spends, they cut creative, meaning photography and video production and stuff. So during that time, there was a big cut down. That's okay. I didn't care. I mean, I was new. Nobody knew who I was. I was this punk kid from Michigan. I didn't have any connections, relationships. Nobody knew who I was. I wasn't a Ben Watts where everybody knew who Ben Watts is, who shoots for Sports Illustrated. I didn't have any of this under my belt. I just had a student portfolio. I knew how to hustle. And what I would do is I started to just market myself. And I built a portfolio and I had some great work, but I started marketing myself, and then I hustled. I got rejection like you wouldn't believe. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I would be making phone calls probably about 3 to 4 days a week, at least, making 100 to 200 phone calls a day, every single day, 3 to 4 days a week. And then maybe the fifth day of that week, or sixth day of that week, I'd be doing photo shoots. But I'd spend at least 4 solid days per week making phone calls, sending email broadcasts, sending personal emails, reaching out to people. And I would constantly be bombarding these people with myself now. And I didn't even have social media at the time. So now it's a lot easier with social media. There's a whole nother level of being able to interaction, to put yourself out there and connect with people. But I was constantly reaching out and I constantly got rejected. I also realized really quickly that, hey, I want to be represented by an agent. That was a big goal of mine. I wanted to be represented by a big shot photography agent. It's something that I always wanted. I want to be represented at the highest level. And I was like, you know what? I know that the top 100,000th of 1% of photographers are represented by an agent, right? I'm sure Ben Watts is probably represented by a top tier agent. I want to be represented because I'm noticing, Ben Watts is actually represented by art department, one of the top tier agencies in the world. So he's got this big agency behind him who is landing his campaigns for him. They're the ones building the relationship. This is what Stephen is going against right here is art department. They are marketing Ben Watts to Tommy Bahama and making sure that they're doing their campaigns and also getting paid what he deserves, right? So I knew that I need to become a top tier photographer represented by a top tier agency. I knew that was super important. So at the time, I'm 24. I don't have any connections. I don't have any relationships. And I didn't even have any big campaigns or anything under my belt yet. So I'm just going to hustle. So the first thing I did was I would start, of course, market to ad agencies. So art buyers and creative directors at advertising agencies. And generally most fashion brands are not with ad agencies. There are some that do. Most fashion brands do it directly, like Stephen was just saying at Tommy Bahama. But most other brands like Pepsi and Apple and Wells Fargo and Chase Bank and Pfizer, they're all with advertising agencies. Okay. So advertising agencies, they hire an ad agency to essentially, handle the creative and handle all the concept of what it is that we're, what the brand wants. And then those creative directors of the ad agency, the creative directors and the art buyers, they essentially find the right photographer. Now, sometimes the brands may have some say. They may have somebody they request, but oftentimes the creative directors and the art buyers are the ones kind of leading the charge here. So you need to build relationships with them. So I got Agency Access, which is a database of photographic decision makers, creative directors and art buyers at every single ad agency in the world. And there's like 65,000 of them on there at the time. And I would just call them and email them every single day. And I would get rejected like nobody's business. I would just be calling and calling and calling. Most of the time, of course, they don't pick up. When they do pick up, they're just disinterested. They don't want to talk. They're whatever, especially creative directors. But when I am talking to art buyers are the person that is the people that are actually going to hire you. They're the ones that handle the budgets. They have the discretionary money to hire a photographer for the campaign. And that's what an art buyer literally does. They have their job is to connect with photographers. And usually ad agencies, there aren't that many of these. There's usually at every major ad agency, there's only between like 1 and 3 art buyers. They're also called art producers, and there are very few of them. Whereas creative directors, there could be tons of them, and they are harder to get a hold of. But art buyers are a really good, important person to meet. And for someone like Steven, I recommend contacting art buyers, calling them constantly, sending emails, social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, personal email broadcast, phone call them every chance you can get. If they have if they have their own personal website or blog or their own social media, comment on that as well. Build a relationship with these people. If you can meet them in person, set up a meeting. And that's what I would do. I would go in, the whole point of emailing them and sending an email broadcast and calling them is to set up a meeting so that I could go and meet with them at their offices, 72 and Sunny in El Segundo, or David and Goliath in LA, or meeting with TBWA Chiat Day, or Saatchi and Saatchi, and all these ad agencies. I would be going in with the intention of meeting them, and then I would showcase my portfolios. I'd bring in my my printed books, my 11x14 printed portfolios, and I would be marketing myself, right? That was the whole jam. That was something that I was constantly doing. I was pushing. And you know what? Like 99.9% of them are going to just ignore you. And they're either going to be disinterested or they're going to say no. But that's okay. For me, what I want you guys to realize is that all these no's, they're my fuel. They are my absolute fuel for success. I love no's. I love a no. Because you know what I hate? I hate not knowing. That's much worse than a no. What Stevens was talking about, where he was sitting in purgatory, email purgatory, where he sent emails out and never heard back from the person. That's much worse than a no. And it might not sound like it to you guys because some of you guys are emotional and you might have you're connected personally to your work and you don't want somebody to reject you or say no to you. And that's natural. That's natural. A lot of people, just human nature. We don't want to be rejected. We don't want to be, ask a girl out to prom and get rejected for that. We feel bad about that. We don't want to, ask somebody for a job and then, shut us down and say no, or we don't want to put our artwork out there and our photography out there and somebody hates on it and says something negative about it. A lot of people, they feel really insecure about themselves and about their work, right? And that's normal. That's human nature. I totally get it. Fortunately, I realized very early on that I needed to disconnect myself from that. I can't have an emotional connection to it because it isn't emotional. What you're doing, you guys, if you are working as a professional photographer, you are creating content for the sole purpose of selling it to that client. And that now becomes a trade. It becomes a product, right? So you're selling a product, right? Just like, we're just looking at this work here with Ben Watts. This is not Ben. This is his work. This is his product. This is what he's marketing and branding and selling himself as. I was marketing and branding and selling myself and my work. And you know what? I didn't get butthurt when somebody didn't like it or didn't, or said no. But what I didn't like is when people ignore you altogether. You're sitting in purgatory and you don't know. Much, 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 much worse. So I want you guys to realize, like, you have to get yourself tons of no's, like hundreds of no's, actually thousands of no's. You need to get thousands of no's so that you can get people to say yes. And every super famous person out there who's become a billionaire, for instance, pretty much has said the same thing. Whenever you hear them speak candidly, they talk about all the no's they had, all the rejection they had. They talk about how hard it really is and how many times you fail until you succeed. That's just the way it is. And to be a successful photographer, this is what it takes. Now, a lot of you guys, you aren't putting in the energy. You're not putting in the effort, and you're not putting yourself out there for a lot of reasons. Now, the number one reason that I notice that people don't put themselves out there for rejection is just they are scared. They're scared and they're insecure and they don't want people to say no. They don't want to be turned down. You know, I'm sorry, but you got to, as an artist, as a creative person, you have to just say, you know what? I don't care if I'm going to be turned down. I don't care if somebody's going to say something terrible about my work. I just want to keep going. I want to keep pushing. I know what I want. I know what I'm capable of, and I know what I can create. It is so vitally important that I cannot tell you how valuable this is. It is absolutely key. And by the way, guys, if you need help with any of this, any of the stuff that I'm talking about, as far as helping you take it to that next level, helping dealing with rejection, helping with understanding what my plan is going forward and laying it out, I want you guys to click on in the offers section of this webinar jam, where it's to plan for your success this year. Schedule now your 2024 photographer's momentum plan. Now, this is totally free. This is something that I'm just giving you guys. It's an awesome opportunity for you guys to set up a one-on-one session, a momentum session with a professional photographic consultant, somebody who actually deals with photographers every day with coaching them. And in fact, Stephen, you know, he's been dealing with our with Priscilla, who is one of our top photographic consultants, and she's worked with us for the last 3 years, and she's helped revolutionize our photographers, just like Stephen. You know, she was able to work with Stephen before and during. She was actually at that workshop that he was with and helped produce it, and then afterwards to help him, you know, take it to that next level and getting all these rave reviews and going out there and getting no's and everything like that, so that he can get those yeses. Because this is a long process. This is not going to just happen overnight. We're not going to all of a sudden, you know, be shooting the 2024 Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue overnight, right? It doesn't happen that way. It takes years. It takes sometimes it takes years and years and years, sometimes decades to get to where you want to be. But it's a competitive industry and it's what it takes, right? I mean, just in the last 2 years alone, we've won 250 photographic awards, all shot from the Photography Workshop Series at the Photography Workshop Series by our attendees. And we won in the top 10 fashion photographers in America, the top 10 out of 7 out of 10 of the top 10 fashion photographers in America. And the One Island Awards were all photographers from the Photography Workshop Series. And I'm super proud of that. And you know what? These photographers, they put themselves out there. They put themselves out there to win awards. And you know, many of them got rejected, but some of them won. Some of them got accepted. Some of them became top 10 fashion photographers in America. It's okay to get rejected. It's okay for people to say no, or to not win an award, or not get published, or not get, you know, completely, you know, said yes to, because it's not going to happen. That's not the way it is. So Wes, like Wes Garrier, you said a great comment here. Fear is a major factor for sure. So Wes says fear is his big factor. I totally understand, and I relate to that. Victor Torres says, honestly, I am in the same boat. Awesome. I love it. Okay, and then Jen Parente says, I've done work for 2 years with Wells Fargo, so shooting campaigns for Wells Fargo. That's fantastic, Jen. I work alongside a production company and cruise control. I've been requested, still maintaining and nurturing the relationships along the way. So that's absolutely, you know, awesome, Jen. Because, yeah, once you land those opportunities, you have to be all over them. Because I can tell you what, guys like Ben Watts, he needs to continue to nurture Tommy Bahama, or somebody like Stephen Paul is going to steal it away from him. Totally. Because honestly, in my opinion, I think the work that Steven shot is actually better than what Ben Watts has been shooting for Tommy Bahama. So, you know, I think that, you know, it's really impressive what Steven has to offer, and his personality is amazing. And I'm sure he would probably do it for a either similar or, you know, even better deal than what Ben Watts is offering, because I'm sure their budgets are absolutely massive. So anyway, I love this, guys. You guys have been, you're saying some really, really fantastic comments. Okay, so Corey Matthews says, how does one reach potential clients? Now, this is one of the things I was talking about, and we go in depth of this with the Photographers University, which is something that is our 30-day photographic accelerator on how to take your photography to the next echelon of where you want to be. The Photographer's Accelerator is something that I'm really, really, really proud of. And it's something that I have been, working on for years. And then finally, we've launched it. And currently, we're actually in our first session of Photographer's University, and it's been incredible. It has been 30 days to remember. It's been absolutely spectacular. The photographers that are involved in it, I know most of you guys are all on right now, have been loving it, writing, rave reviews, even sending me in video testimonials about how incredible it was, which I'm really thankful for that. Thank you guys. You guys sent some fantastic testimonials. So thank you so much for all of those. I really, really appreciate it. But the guys, and girls that are on this amazing Photographer's University, they are all interested in success. They're all interested in this. And I want to give you a little bit, Corey, about what it does take, how to contact these people. We're going to go really in depth about it at the university, but during the 30-day accelerator. But it all starts with identifying the 4 most critical components to success in photography. And the first is mastering your photographic portfolio, okay, and your brand, right? Your photographic portfolio is your brand. So that content that Steven just talked about, that's his brand. That's it. That's his portfolio. That's everything. That's what he had to master. And now that work is incredible. And of course, it's ever growing. And now he's coming to Newport Beach in a few weeks, coming to that epic Newport workshop all 5 days. And he's going to create the greatest images of his life. And he's going to add that to the Miami workshop. It's content. And he's going to have an even stronger body of work. And the best part is that Steven now has that content that he can send to Tommy Bahama creative directors afterwards to showcase that it wasn't just his current work. It's like, oh my gosh, I shot this new work, and here's more new work, and here's more new work. So now he can continue on that process to create this unbelievable content going forward of additional work for Tommy Bahama. In fact, you know what? Steven, I'm going to actually order some Tommy Bahama clothing that we can use in that Newport Beach shoot, and then we can customize, a couple scenes where we can showcase Tommy Bahama wardrobe, so you can actually photograph that brand in that lifestyle campaign. That way, you have something very specific for Tommy Bahama, and it looks as though you went out and self-financed a massive scale Tommy Bahama ad campaign that you can showcase to them. You're just adding more value to yourself, right? So first of all, Corey, it's developing your photographic portfolio and your brand. That's critical. And if you guys don't have that, then you know what? We need to work on that right now. It's 2024. We need to work on that right now. Don't waste your time with all the heavy investment in marketing, networking, and closing the deal when you don't have the brand. You got to have the brand. It's everything to start with, okay? You got to have the brand. And when I started hustling, I did have a brand. I did. And I've evolved it over time. But when I started hustling and marketing myself when I was 24, I did have a brand, and I had some great work, and I marketed the heck out of it. But you guys have to have that strong brand first. If you don't have it, that's okay. I can help you. That's literally the point of the photography workshop series, is to produce massive scale level productions at a scale that you probably never even thought was possible, and to create content that's so otherworldly, that's purely iconic content that is just going to, take you, just like Steven, take you to an entire new level of production. It's very, very, very important. Okay. So guys, I want to first and foremost create content that is otherworldly as far as quality, and to create content that's absolutely out of this world. That's insane. Then you need to market it. Okay. So once you develop that world-class content, that's the very, very beginning. That's literally the cornerstone, right? And if you don't have it, come and get involved in our epic workshops. We have a whole series of incredible productions coming up this year, from Newport Beach to our elite masterclass in LA, where, we're shooting high fashion at a massive scale production on location, creating content like this. As we shot at our elite masterclass in March. This is shooting with parachutes, shooting with Vogue supermodels, shooting just unbelievable out of this world content, building that iconic brand, having a 40 image cohesive body of work that is all powerful, strong, and tailored to your audience. And out of those 40 images, you should have at least 30 that are absolutely iconic. Just images that stand the test of time, that are absolutely incredible. And having content with world-class top supermodels, unbelievable level of production, and a scale that you just never even thought was possible. This really adds to your brand, right? This adds to your brand. So if you're interested in fashion, we have a fashion, incredible experiences. If you're interested in lifestyle, like Steven, we have lifestyle experiences coming up, like in Newport and Miami. He did Miami and he's doing Newport now. We have these unbelievable experiences that are literally out of this world. So if you guys want to get involved, this can help build your brand at a really, really high level. Now, once you build that brand, we need to market ourselves. We need to reach out. We need to send out, and I've done a whole series of webinars on this, but basically massively reaching out so that you can be rejected. It is so important to be rejected. I want you emailing, email broadcasting. I'm regularly, just so you guys know, for all the marketing I do, I send out about 4 million emails a month. I'm sending out tens of thousands of text messages. I'm sending out messages on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I'm making, phone calls, massive amounts of phone calls, somebody from myself or somebody from my team, thousands and thousands and thousands of phone calls. And this is just what it takes. It's what it takes. And it's like this for any position where you want projects to occur. You've got to market yourself and you need to follow up. You also need to build your network. And essentially, the first column is your brand, that the first pillar of success. The second is marketing. The third is going to be building your network, because your network is your net worth. And those of you who have people that are adding value to your life and adding value to your career, if you're friends with the creative director from Tommy Bahama, or you're hanging out, with the art buyer that works at Saatchi and Saatchi, those are the people that should be in your network. Not Joe Smith down the street just watching the football game. You guys, if you want to be successful, you need to build a network of the right people, and you need to hang out with them. You need to spend time with them. You need to build that. They need to know who you are. It's important. It's really, really important. And I try to do that. I try to surround myself with very powerful and important people, and connecting with people that, I can add value to their lives, and also obviously people you want to spend time with, but people that you can add value to their lives. And in what's awesome is in return, they add value back. And it's really, really important to add as much value as possible. And somebody like Steven is such a likable guy, but he also has great work and can add so much value to any client's opportunity, brand. So building that network of people, and that's what Steven's doing. He's building his network, his connections. Now you have to follow up with them. You have to email them, phone call them, meet them, set up meetings, take them out to lunch, take them out to dinner. Spend some money on this, spend some time on this, because those relationships lead to opportunities in the future. And I understood this early on. So at 24, I'm hustling and I'm putting myself out there. I'm kicking butt. I'm really really just trying to build my network, because I know that it's going to pan out in the future. And even though I'm this punk kid at 24, being rejected every day, all the time, or whatever, I landed opportunities. I landed campaigns. I landed, I think I was 24, 25. I landed it was like a 6-figure campaign for Smirnoff, landing campaigns for Pepsi, landing campaigns for Miller Lite, Coors Light, landing campaigns for casinos, all when I was like 24, 25 years old, because I hustled it and I marketed myself, and I was, and I was able to build myself up to make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year as a 24-year-old shooting campaigns, because opportunities are out there. But the thing is there's a lot of competition. So we have to market ourselves, and we have to follow up again and again and again, and get tons and tons and tons of rejection. Now, when it comes to rejection, there's good rejection and there's bad rejection too. So the good rejection, I really love rejection where the person doesn't think that, well, there's a couple here. Like one is where the decision maker, make sure it's a decision maker, say an art buyer and a creative director at an ad agency. They love my work, but it's not appropriate for their brand. I used to get this a lot. I came into this blind, and when I was 24, I didn't really know what I was doing. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to market all my creative fine art photography, and I'm going to show, because it's really interesting. It's a private it's a personal project. And I think that, they're going to want to see it. And I went and I met with ad agencies in New York and in Chicago, and I was going after pharmaceutical advertising campaigns, right? And I was like, okay, I want to go after these campaigns. I know they have huge budgets, and let me, meet with them. And I set up these meetings. I met with these decision makers, major art buyers, ad agencies. I was so excited, and I was really jazzed about all of this, and about this whole concept of, landing a pharma campaign with them, and at 24. And I came into them, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to show. I showed some different work, but what was really interesting was, like, I showed them the wrong work. Okay, so this is an example of kind of the interesting rejection here, where I showed them this fine art photography, which I thought was really interesting. I just shot this as a fine art editorial story that got published in the cover of a magazine. It was on like 944 magazine, and I shot this whole story on alchemy of a dream, archetypes of the collective unconscious, and each image was a specific Jungian or Freudian archetype. And this is long before AI and all of the crazy cool stuff you can do in Midjourney and stuff like that. I had did all of this original stuff in the dark room and within Photoshop, and created this stuff. This is a long time ago. But I was really proud of this. This was in museums, and I sold this as fine art pieces and all this stuff. But this is one of the projects I showed these creative directors. And you know what? They were interested in, and they were like, oh, this is really cool. Like, you got really great work and whatever. But like, they were just looking at me like I'm stupid, because they're like, this isn't really exactly what we do. This is what we're looking for is, we've got this, this medicine that we're trying to market for Alzheimer's. And we have this other medicine for people with arthritis and joint pain. And, and that's really what, we're looking for. And they kind of said it in a nice way, but basically it was like, I was so dumb for not like showing work that was specifically to what they're looking for. And this is really important, because a lot of times photographers, they miss the bag. They shoot all this great fashion stuff, and then they show it to like a pharmaceutical company, or they shoot fine art or something, and they show it to a pharma company. And that's not what they're looking for. That's not what most Fortune 500 companies are looking for. I tell you what, what would have sold them when I met with these ad agencies. And I remember it was Abelson Taylor in Chicago. It was a major ad agency, and I met with their senior art buyer and stuff like that. This is what they wanted. This was actually, we ended up doing this at one of our workshops, which was fabulous, at one of our Newport Beach workshops. But this is what they were looking for. It was happy, healthy people that were mature, enjoying their life and their elder years. And this is what they would have hired. They would have hired me in an instant for like a 6-figure campaign if I showed them the work that is what their brand was going for. So this is just a lesson to you guys. Make sure to showcase content to people that, especially if it's in person, that they are using for their campaigns. Like Steven is right on track. Steven's showing them content that for Tommy Bahama that could totally be a Tommy Bahama campaign. If he marketed to free people, he's showing them stuff that could totally be a free people campaign, right? It's marketed very, very well. But don't be, make the mistake I did early on and show the wrong work to the right customer, because it's not going to work out for you. You're just not going to land the opportunity. I mean, it's great to have personal projects and all, but a lot of times that's not what they're hiring you for. They have a specific look. And I should have been showing this, and instead I'm showing this. And it's like, oh yeah, it's very creative, whatever. But that's not going to sell me. I'm showing them the wrong product, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So that kind of rejection, it was kind of a wake up for me, but it wasn't like the kind of rejection, the good rejection Steven was getting, where it's like, hey, the client really loves the work and is like, it's perfect for the client. It's just, they currently have another photographer. That's great. This was, I am a shoo-in for this project if I showed them the right work, and instead I showed them the wrong work and I got rejected, so you don't want that to happen. You don't want that to happen. Okay. And it's the same with, with fashion. You shouldn't be showing them lifestyle. If you're a lifestyle photographer, you shouldn't be showing them fashion. If you're I always see this for consumer photographers. I can't tell you how many photographers I've spoken to and where they were trying to sell like senior portraits, for seniors in high school, and they're showing like boudoir photography on their website. And it's like, you know how inappropriate that is. You're shooting yourself in the foot, because it's so opposite of what you should be showing. You have to show the clients what they want to see, what they're looking for. It's really, really, really important, Now, if you're not really sure, I just look up their websites. Just Google the clients that you want to shoot for, find out what they're doing and try to match that content. And that's literally why the Photography Workshop series is designed to have all this high-end commercial lifestyle work because it works with all of the Fortune 500 companies. You could market to Fortune 500 companies, you could market to fashion lifestyle companies. You could have, it's so versatile and it's so valuable. Now, I did want to tell you guys a story because I did bring this, this is something up earlier with rejection as well. One of the most interesting methods of or situations I've had with rejection was when I was first starting out. This is back again when I was like 24 and I was wanting to get represented by an agent. And what I did was I wanted to be represented by an agent, and not just any agent. I wanted an agency in New York, right? An agent in New York to represent me. I was like, oh my gosh, if I got an agent in New York, it would really just maximize my career. I could be a world-class, A-list photographer immediately. So I started calling all the agents. There's about 100 agents in America. I got a list of them on theagentlist.com, and I looked up all these photographers, and I was trying to really figure out, who would be interested in representing me. And of course, I didn't have anything to offer other than my work, and I was hungry. So I didn't really have a lot of opportunities because I didn't, and because I went about it all the wrong way. What I should have been doing is marketing myself only to ad agencies. Then when I had an opportunity, then tell the agents about the opportunity, like the ad campaign that I'm bidding on, and then get the agents involved. And that's eventually how I started getting represented in the future. But when I first started out, I started calling all these agents. And what I was doing is I contacted this agent in New York, and his name was Joe Lombardo. And Joe Lombardo, he was a photographer agent that is he was one of the higher end agents, and he was at I think it was, I want to say Artists and Creatives of this agency. And anyway, Joe Lombardo had this big agency, this big photographers that he represented, some top tier photographers, kind of like at the Ben Watts level, and I was like, okay, if I got represented by by Joe Lombardo in New York, it would totally take me to the next level, right? And that would be a totally different experience if I could obtain this agent. So what I did was I marketed to him. I started, contacting Joe Lombardo. I started calling him. I spoke to him, and I showed him my work. And by the way, this is actually, I showed this to my university attendees the other day, but basically this is from my very first portfolio that I showed him. I showed him this image. This is actually one of my older business cards. And I was like, and I had this on the front of my website. It's kind of this edgy, kind of cool look. And I had this whole website with this kind of really edgy fashion, kind of raw look. And I marketed it to him. I spoke to him on the phone, and Joe was like, yeah, I actually really like your work. Your work's beautiful. Send me your book, send me your portfolio, and then we'll talk. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like the greatest accomplishment. I called 100 agents, maybe half of them picked up, of those, almost all of them said, no, I'm not interested. I have my rosters full. I'm not taking anyone on, or blah, 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 whatever it is, or you're not ready. And then I had this agent say, yeah, I'm very interested. Send me your book. It's like, all right, excellent. Okay, cool. So I was like, all right, now I have to produce a portfolio for this agent. And I didn't know what to do. I'm 24. I didn't have a clue. So I went and I printed all my pictures. I got them ready. I went out to an art store to buy this, whatever portfolio I could find. I found this, it was like, I think it was around 11 by 17, weird size portfolio at like Blick Art. It was like a black leather portfolio, and it had like spiral bound in it. And I took the prints that I printed in that weird size, and then they were in a spiral bound. So I had to like do hole punches along it and then bind the images into it. And they were just single page. So it was like a photograph on the front, and the back side was just the back of a photograph. So it wasn't double sided or anything. Anyway, printed all my pictures. I put them in this portfolio, mailed it to New York. And I'm like, all right, crossing my fingers. Okay, let's see what he says. And I don't hear from him. I'm calling him, doesn't pick up, emailing him, doesn't respond. Finally, like a couple of weeks go by, and I speak to Joe Lombardo. And I'm like I'm talking to him on the phone, and I'm like, hey, Joe, it's Kevin Michael Schmitz. I showed you my work. You loved it. I mailed you my book. What'd you think? And he said, Kevin, your work, this is absolute garbage. This is crap. I could never sell this. This is absolute trash. Why did you send me this garbage? Right? So this is some major rejection here, guys. And a lot of people would be crying, would be freaking out, would be, their dreams would be crushed. But for me, I wasn't. I was just curious. I was like, Joe, I sent you love the images on my website. You raved about the pictures on my website. I put all those pictures, I printed them, I put them in a book, and I sent them to you. What's the problem? What don't you like? And he's like, Kevin, I could never sell this. This is, the presentation is terrible. It looks like some crappy portfolio you got from an art store. It's not even screw post bound. It's single page, it's not double-sided. It's thin, it's cheap, it's shitty. And it's this weird size. It's absolute shit. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, what are you looking for? That's my follow-up question. What exactly do you want? Oh, well, it has to be 11 by 14 screw post bound portfolio. It has to look good. This is not it. This is crap. And I'm like, okay. I spent several $100s on this. So could you just mail it back to me? He's like, sure, fine. So anyway, another week goes by and I received this package in the mail and I open it up and he had taken my portfolio. They spent probably $700-800 on it. And he broke it in half and then shoved it in this box and mailed it back to me. And I was like, okay, the message has been sent loud and clear. And this is the ultimate form of rejection. It was one of the single best pieces of professional experience that I've ever had in my career, because from then on, I was like, all right, now I'm going to get serious about this. I am going to create a world-class portfolio, a beautiful book. And I ended up, creating this 11 by 14 blue suede portfolio, a spectacular body of work. And I'm going to, it's blue suede. It has a blue suede slip cover. It's absolutely breathtaking. And I'm going to create content now that is going to be just like totally epic. And he's not going to be able to say no to this work. So going forward, I'm going to have an unbelievable body of work, and you can't hate on this. You just can't hate on this. And going forward, I'm going to create something that, no matter what, I'm going to not be rejected anymore for my presentation. I'm going to be rejected based on whether they should rep me or not. And, sure enough, this is actually this was that old portfolio, the one that they ended up, that I turned it into. I ended up getting, this is actually one of my original old portfolios. This is from a long time ago, but it was blue suede and it was made by a bookbinder, 11 by 14, double-sided, and it has, anyway, so it has, these images bound into it, and it's beautiful, beautifully printed, and it's on like watercolor paper. It's 11 by 14. It has just a nice layout and look and feel, much more professional. And this was something that they, it helped me with my career. So it pushed me to go further. And then once I got a real portfolio, I started meeting with other agents. And although I didn't get represented by Joe Lombardo, I ended up getting represented by AA Reps, represents in New York, and then eventually Jay Foster at 46 Pictures, and eventually at Opus Represents. They split into two agencies, and then I went with George Perez Reps, and I was represented by him. And it took me to another echelon, because once you get represented by a top tier agency, that represents some of the most famous photographers. And I was rep by JP Reps for years, and it definitely catapulted me to the next level with my career. And so, for me, I just needed that kick in the pants. I needed that rejection, and many of you guys do too. But the thing is I sought after it. I called, I emailed, I tried to meet in person with as many of these people as I could, and I did. And I ended up finding representation. It then catapulted me to the next level, where once I had agency represented, I could bid on and book even bigger campaigns and more opportunities. And it really allowed my career to explode. So the rejection was wonderful. And what was funny is the same character, Joe Lombardo, who rejected me many, many, many years ago. He now he has another agency in New York. And he came, and he's still an agent. He's still a photography agent. And he came and actually was a panelist at my one of my workshops in New York. And he came in and he showed up in person, and he told me, he was like, man, my one regret is I regret I didn't take you on, Kevin. So even after all these years, he wished that he actually didn't reject me at that time. And he would have taken me on because he sees the kind of things that I've created since then. And now, he's kind of like, he's like, wow, well, none of the artists I represent have, been successful enough to buy a castle in France and shoot for Burberry and stuff like that. Although some of his photographers are crushing it right now too. So this is actually some of the photographers he represents. But here's Curated Artists is his brand. Anyway, so it's really interesting and comes full circle. But guys, rejection is key. It's paramount to your success. And I want you guys to thrive off of rejection. I want you to live for rejection. I want you to get rejected every day, because if you're not being rejected every day, it means that you're not putting yourself out there, that you're not hustling. Okay. And if you guys are interested in setting up like a one-on-one session with me and with one of my photographic consultants, click on that link or message in the chat here. And we can't wait to work with you and coach you and guide you. It's totally for free. We're just here to help you. If you guys are interested in getting involved in the Photographers University, our 30-day accelerator, it is a mind-blowing experience. We're going to have another session open up this spring that we're really excited about, because we're finishing up our current session right now. Tomorrow is actually the very last day for Photographers University, January, which is amazing. It's been an incredible experience, and it's been absolutely astounding. Everyone's loved it. And then we have all these epic workshops coming up, from Newport Beach in February, our elite masterclass in Los Angeles in March, to our Miami Beach experience that Steven took last year. It's coming up in April, where we're shooting with unbelievable top supermodels that have been in like Sports Illustrated, as well as top lifestyle advertising models on the beach, which is what Steven shot. Then we're going to be at my 49-room 13th century palace in France, which of course I'm super excited about, because that's happening in July. And I know some of you guys who are on right now attended this year, and some of you guys are signed up for next year. But this is going to be obviously an experience that's unlike anything else. And by the way, I dealt with a lot of rejection to be able to get this castle. The difficulty of an American buying a 49-room 13th century palace in France at age 35, that was a challenge. That was a challenge. I'll be honest. That was a very, very difficult thing. It's probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. Just getting it, just being able to, get through the process, because of how challenging it is. But I bought a 49-room castle in France. We use this as one of our epic locations. This is for our 6-day, 5-night French Green Castle experience, where you get to stay at my castle. I have Michelin star chefs. I've got masseuses on premise. I've got horses on premise. We do horse riding. We had unlimited massages throughout the week. It was incredible. We had unbelievable dining experiences, dining under the stars with the Michelin star chefs, and obviously creating unbelievable. This is actually the evenings, and then in some of the rooms of the castle, and then of course shooting unparalleled, unbelievable production content, just like as you see here. And this is fantastic if you are a fashion photographer, if you are a wedding photographer, if you are a portrait photographer, or even a fine art photographer. The French Dream Castle is obviously completely out of this world experience if you guys want to get involved. But the amount of rejection that it's taken me to get to this point, it's out of this world. But I don't care. I want to be rejected all the time, because if I'm not being rejected, then I'm not getting myself out there, right? It's the same thing. I'm also the TV director, host, and producer of the TV travel show Great Escapes that airs on CBS. And, for me, I'm putting myself out there all the time. I'm getting rejected all the time. It's something that I thrive on it. And I have new TV shows that I'm going after, that I'm putting together and marketing and stuff. And you know what? Most of the time they get rejected, but that's okay, because for all the rejections, there is a hint of opportunity there, because if if you get rejected, at least they know who you are. At least they're looking at you. At least they're considering you. At least they're, they might work with you in the future. And that's really, really important, is to create opportunities so that you're constantly going after and constantly building yourself up so that you can go to the next level. It's really, really, really important. So guys, rejection is key. And if any of you guys ever modeled or were in acting or anything like that, it's even worse. You get rejected all the time, and it's even more personal because it's about how you look. But when it comes to photography, at least we're judged on our work, and it's okay. It's okay to be rejected. In fact, you want it to happen every day. So I encourage you guys, make the effort, put in the work, put in the time, and don't worry about them saying no or not liking you. It doesn't really matter. What matters is them not knowing who you are. What matters is them not rejecting you, because you know what? It's not like you're going to contact, say I call 50,000 creative directors and art buyers, and all 50,000 of them are not going to say no. It's just simple mathematics. You know what I mean? Yeah, and even if your work is not at that level yet, still out of 50,000, not all of them are going to say no. There's going to be some people that will say yes. You just need to get through to them, right? You just need to market to them. It is absolutely key and important. So I want to make sure that you guys are getting rejected and then handling it in a way to create more opportunities. When I got rejected from Joe Lombardo, it didn't just crush my dreams. It propelled me to go further and to create a new body of work and to go after even better agents and get represented, and then market myself more to get represented by another agent, another agent, another agent, and have more opportunities. Constantly fueled my fire. And I want rejection to fuel your fire, because it really does make a huge difference in everything going forward. And and I love your comments, guys. And Wes, I definitely want to go there. Well, you should, man. I'd love, Wes, for you to join me at my castle in France, and you as well, Chantel. It'd be awesome to have you guys at the French Dream Castle. If you guys are interested, let us know. Let us know if you're interested in getting involved in that experience. This is fantastic. Even Enrique Gascon says that MGM apparently the creative director threw an initial movie campaign presentation on the floor and retried with a different concept. Then the second concept flew and went along with it. Absolutely, Enrique. Okay. Victor Torres says, what would you recommend for someone who is on a fixed income but really has the drive and motivation to succeed? I'm scared because I don't have the most high-tech and up-to-date equipment. They won't look at me. That's a great question, Victor. You know what, Victor? It doesn't matter about your equipment. I've been a photographer and director my entire career. And do you know how many times I've been asked what camera I shoot with? Zero. Literally zero. Not any client in my entire career has ever cared or asked me which camera I'm shooting with. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what equipment you have. It's completely irrelevant, Victor. So it's what is important is that you need to have the drive. And if you say you do, let's see you drive. Let's see you actually put the effort in, because it sounds like if you're on a fixed income, it doesn't sound like you like to take any risks. So it sounds like you need to take some risks. You need to put yourself out there. For me, I am all about taking risks, because if you don't ever put yourself out there and you don't ever take risks, nothing ever good is going to just magically occur to you. I'm sorry. It just doesn't work that way. You have to take risks for success. You have to put yourself out there for success. And if you don't, you're just going to be in exactly the same place you're at right now. So and I think that I would love, Victor, for you to jump on one of those sessions with a photographic consultant, because they will help guide you and give you everything you need to push forward. As well. I think it'd be fantastic. So you guys are interested in that, click on the link in that I offered before. In fact, here I'm gonna put it back on to set up a one-on-one photographic momentum plan with one of our photographic consultants. Go ahead and click on that if you guys are interested. We'd love to set this totally for free, just to help you guys out for 2024. But you can go over that. You can talk about that, discuss that, because this is awesome. And it's so wonderful to see a lot of new faces on here as well. And Alan says, the best camera in the world is the camera that you have in your hand. And you know what? You're right. This camera right here, this is actually, this is the best, because it's always in my hand. So I don't really care. It doesn't even matter. And by the way, yes, I shoot campaigns for Burberry and Giorgio Armani, but you know what? This image right here, believe it or not, I actually shot this with this iPhone. I shot this image with an iPhone. Believe it or not. So it doesn't even matter what camera you're shooting with, you guys. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. They're all great these days. It's more about the production the quality, the scale, the hair, the makeup, the wardrobe, the location, the assistants, the team, everything that's put together. And if you don't have the budget or you don't have access to that, that's where we come in. We can help you with that. That's what we do. And Stephen Paul says he wants to encourage everyone to schedule a session. It's been amazingly helpful for me this year. That's awesome, Stephen. Thank you so much for your kind words. It has been, and we're here to help you every step of the way, Stephen. It's really, really important. And we go the extra mile too. I know Priscilla actually works really one-on-one with Stephen ongoing, and it's really been wonderful for him. All right. Yes. And Cynthia, that must be Cynthia Parcham, who, by the way, Cynthia, you have attended a whole series of our epic workshops. I think you've come to, I don't know, 6 of them or something like that over the years, which is wonderful. The great Cindy Smith from Denver. Wonderful to see you too, Cindy. And I can't wait to work with you once again over the next few months. It's going to be super fun. You're incredible and so wonderful to work with. I love all of you guys. Yeah, anyway, wonderful to see so many familiar faces and also some new faces on here as well as my Photographers University attendees, which I have a lot of great stuff in store for you guys tomorrow, which I'm super, super stoked about. I actually have a photography agent coming on as well, which I'm super stoked about. So we've got a lot of really juicy stuff for tomorrow during our last session, Photographers University. But anyway, rejection, guys, is my fuel for success. It's one of my favorite things in the world. And I just need you guys to reshape how you see success, how you see rejection, and how you can create success out of it. By, instead of being afraid of rejection, I want you to embrace rejection. I want you to thrive, and I want you to crave rejection the way I do. I love it. I absolutely love it. And once you get rejected, continue to, it depends on the type of rejection, but like if it's somebody like Steven who they rejected him because they're not ready for him yet, that's okay. Just continue to stay in touch, build a relationship, go into the office, meet with them, continue that on, because when the time occurs, and that time eventually will come, in most cases, eventually you'll have an opportunity. If you have the right work, which Steven does, then you can pounce. But it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. You need to build the momentum, and you have to build the credibility, and you have to have the body of work, and you need to build the relationships. When you have all the groundwork ready to go, then, and the right timing is there, then you can land those opportunities. But oftentimes timing is everything. And oftentimes they've already selected the photographer. They're not ready, or they don't know you. There's all kinds of reasons why they say no, or their work's not appropriate for what they're doing, whatever it is. But we need to be rejected, and we need to find out why they're rejecting us. That's really important. Find out, is it because of my work? Is it because of the type of work? Is it because you're already working with somebody? Is it the budget? What is it? Why are you rejecting me? I also love to know that. And feel free to ask that. It's absolutely fantastic. So guys, I cannot wait to see each and every one of you rejected this year, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, because it will be the fuel for your success. Just please put yourself out there, and I will help you every step of the way. And make sure to join us on a one-on-one momentum session with one of my team members, because I cannot wait to see you guys and work with you personally. And hopefully you can join up and be a part of Photographers University, or a 5-day ultra intensive 5-day and 6-day experiences at my castle, or in LA or Newport or Miami, all these other epic locations. But take care, guys, and make sure, do not let rejection get you down. I want to have it fuel you.